Hello, everyone. Very happy to welcome you for a new Crypto Valley Association get together webinar, Bridging the Gap, Trade Finance and Crypto in Conversation with some established actors in the financial market. I'm very happy to welcome Markus Dinkelmann from Asset Management Association Switzerland and Sandro Bruehlmann from PostFinance, big established player in the financial market here in Switzerland. We're very happy to discuss this very important topic. And so I would like to start direct, maybe just a few phrases how it will work. I mean, we will have now a discussion between us, and then I'll pick some questions um, uh, from the audience so that we can discuss this. It's very unfortunate that we are only three and only three male. We had Demelsa, which organized this event, my co-chair at Crypto Valley Investor Working Group, which unfortunately came home sick from her holidays. So it's very sad that she's not with us. We send her best wishes and a fast recovery. And we start with our webinar. And I would like maybe Sandro to explain quickly what PostFinance is. I think we all know what it is, but maybe one, two phrases, and then also the activities in the crypto and the trade and the crypto space, and then we'll do the same with Markus.
Thank you very much, Martin, and hello everybody also from my side. It's great to be here. So I think PostFinance definitely is an established name in the financial industry, especially in Switzerland, or nearly only in Switzerland, I would say. We are one of the largest retail banks here in Switzerland with close to 2.4 million retail investors. So we are a retail-focused bank offering typical retail investment products, accounts, bank accounts, savings accounts, and also more and more focused on the whole investment space. And so we have a very broad offering that we offer to Swiss retail investors. And we launched our crypto trading offering last year in February 2024. Which is also a strategic initiative of PostFinance, where we want to position ourselves as a leader in the digital asset space. And that's also the reason why we're here today, or why I'm here today, is that PostFinance is more and more going into the crypto space or the digital assets world. So besides traditional banking services, we continue to expand our offering in the digital asset space.
Thank you.
So then I take over shortly. Thank you very much also for having me today. So I work at the Asset Management Association Switzerland as an asset management analyst. And AMAS, that's our short name, is the industry association for the Swiss asset management sector, so representing around 180 in the vast majority corporate members. And AMAS advocates for the interests of asset managers and fund management companies as well in Switzerland, focusing on regulatory affairs, best practices, and the overall development of the asset management industry based in Switzerland. So we are headquartered in Basel and also have small offices in Zurich and Geneva, and we are a small team of totally around 10 FTEs. And so to say, my role at AMAS covers a broad range of responsibilities, including leading projects, developing publications together with partners, as well as industry guidelines, managing various committees that bring together experts from the different areas of the industry. So this include, for example, working groups in the risk management, investment compliance, alternative investments, ETFs and indexed investments, as well as GIPS, that's the Global Investment Performance Standards set by the CFA Institute, and then even tokenization and digital assets, and the latter in collaboration with Swiss Digital Exchange. So we are quite working on a lot of things.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. We need to know more, but we will learn more about this probably in our discussion. So maybe Markus, could you tell me a bit what first drew your attention to crypto and to the world of crypto, and when did you start? How did it evolve? Where do you? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for this question, Martin. So, yeah, for a long time I was quite skeptical about crypto and Bitcoin. However, then in back 2019, I decided to take a closer look at the topic. At that time, I was completing my master's degree in banking and finance at the University of Zurich, and was basically searching for a thesis topic. At the same time, I was also working for a fund management company in Liechtenstein, which was closely monitoring the crypto space, but remained also a bit cautious about entering it. So this gave me an idea. I could analyze how adding crypto to a traditional institutional equity bond portfolio would impact the risk return profile. And yeah, so to do this, I constructed a hypothetical passive fund that aimed to cover a certain percentage of the total market cap of all cryptocurrencies. And yeah, depending on Bitcoin's dominance, then the portfolio included between 5 and 30 different cryptos back then. And yeah, of course, my results were also influenced by the crypto winter that began in December of 2019. So some up and down since then. Nonetheless, so I concluded that an allocation of just 1% in crypto in an institutional portfolio could, under some circumstances, offer beneficial characteristics. And yeah, at that time, Bitcoin was trading around at $9,000. So unfortunately, then I didn't follow my own recommendation, partly because as a student I had too much money to invest. So then some time passed. When I joined AMAS in 2021, there was already a dedicated working group in place working on innovation with a strong focus on tokenization. And this further shaped then my perspective on the technology and also on digital assets. But I will be happy to share more on that later.
Sandro?
Thank you very much. We actually share a very similar story, how we got into the market. I always think it's funny when we look at how people usually get into crypto, right? I mean, the perfect answer would be something which, I mean, the decentralization, all that thinking drew me into that market. But I mean, the true reality is it's about the upside potential, right? That's always what first draws the attention. And then when we look closer at it, then we see the potential that really comes with the technology, right? So that was pretty much the same with me back in 2017 until 19. We were working on with my former employer more in the traditional asset management space. We were already launching a whole range of different investment products in the crypto space, all structured as an AMC. We also launched, I would say, the world's first fund of tokenized venture capital funds, where we focused on investing in tokenized VC funds. So very early on, very at the edge of the revolution in the financial sector, I would say, but it was still very early. But out of my curiosity, I would say, into that market or in this technology, it became more let's say, strategic thinking, how this can be integrated. And that's where I'll relate to you, Markus, into an institutional portfolio, right? And there the questions that came up is what infrastructure actually is needed and how do we align this with the regulation? And I mean, back then there was no very clear regulation about crypto. It slowly began in 2019, and ever since then it has increased and that it has improved, of course. That's also what puts in more institutional money in the market, which is needed for acceptance, of course. But it all started with this, let's look at it, something, a new asset class, right, with a high upside potential. That was the first thing that actually drew my attention. After that, really digging deep into the technology. And I mean, now we're here, we offer crypto as a systemically relevant bank in Switzerland. That's also probably a world's first that we have been doing there. So I think it's amazing, the journey that we have come so far. And more than happy to continue on this path.
If I may ask here, how do you see now the response from your clients? How is this offering getting traction?
Well, we are more than happy with how it has started, the offering. Of course, we did some analysis prior to the launch, of course, what we can expect. But although I can't disclose very exact figures there, we exceeded all the targets that we had. So it's interesting to see also now in the market, over the last 2 weeks, when market have bumped again, that we have more buy orders than sell orders. So also the not very educated retail investors, let's put it that way, are starting to see the market bumping as an opportunity. Which was definitely not the case a couple of years ago, and which is definitely not the case in other traditional assets when we look at retail investors, right? So we exceeded the target. We are very happy with how it's going. And what's also very encouraging, I would say, is that the broad demographic uptake that it has. It's not just the early adopters that are now able to trade within their bank, right, their house bank, or some tech enthusiasts. It's really the Hans and Kunz from Switzerland, who is now entering into a new asset class that gives him an exposure to an upside potential, which he did not have before. So this also tells us that crypto has become mainstream, right? And when offered in an institutional grade setup like we have at PostFinance, we can really allow people to gain access to a new asset class that they did not have before. And one other, I would say, very, very interesting factor is that we have attracted many new clients, which have not been clients with PostFinance before. And the even more interesting fact is that we have attracted many new investors. So these clients have not been investing in any asset class before. So it's they're entering into the investment world, let's put it that way, was crypto. And I think that's very funny. I mean, if we look back a couple of years, crypto was like the end stage that you enter if you're an investor, right? And today we see it as a starting point for many investors who start with crypto and would then potentially go into other asset classes. And from a bank perspective, of course, that's a huge cross-selling potential that you have. So it's not the end stage anymore. It's actually the entry point for many investors out there.
This is really very interesting. I mean, it will be exciting to see once maybe your stats also about this. Maybe I'm also wondering, how is it now age-wise? Is it only young people, or is it also even like middle-aged or older people, which are starting? Yeah.
It's very diverse. We only allow, as of now, the opening of a crypto portfolio at the age of 18. So obviously the youngest investor that we have, or youngest client, is 18. And the oldest, if I remember correctly, is somewhere 85 or somewhere there. So, and in between, of course, we have the typical demographic distribution of investments. That's not different to the traditional world, where we see it in the range of 30 until to 45, 50, somewhere there, right? We have the largest amount of investors, but that's not different from other asset classes if we look at the market. But it's actually very diverse. So I've also been in touch with different clients of ours for some features that we have been discussing with them. And some of them have not been very educated, let's say, even the younger ones. They didn't really know what the technology is about. And then I had a conversation with a client who was, I think it was 17, 72, 73, somewhere there. and he was very well educated on the topic. He knew all about layer 2 solutions, upgrade of the blockchains, hard forks, all that stuff. So you can't really put a number into behind the technology. It's very diverse, I would say.
Yeah. Very interesting, very interesting. I mean, just now before we move, before we go back to Markus, just maybe could you also tell us which services you offer? Also, and I'm also wondering how is it? Did you build up your own infrastructure, or are you do you have collaborations?
We are working with Sygnum Bank, who is doing the custody for us and also the brokerage services. So we are in very close relationship with Sygnum. They are a enabler for us to enter the crypto and the blockchain space. We started with the direct custody and trading of cryptocurrencies. We are now offering custody and trading for 16 different cryptocurrencies, all payment tokens there. As of the current moment. And we also launched staking just 2 months ago in February this year, which was also world's first. It's a native Ethereum staking retail product. So we don't do liquid staking. We don't put anything into lending and then we promise some returns and say it's from staking. It's real native Ethereum staking. Which is a game changer, I would say, but which was very hard to design, especially as a systemically relevant bank, as you can imagine. Entering that space, being in touch with FINMA, and getting the regulatory clarity there on such an offering was a tough thing to do, but we managed to do it. And we are now working also on the crypto transfer feature, where you can withdraw or deposit cryptocurrencies that you already hold on an exchange or on your private wallet. And of course, also the other way around, if you want to withdraw something, you can do then. That's something that we are currently working on, and more information on that hopefully very soon.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Sandro. So, Markus, maybe tell us a bit more about the involvement of AMAS with digital assets.
Yeah, sure. So back in 2021, when I was starting at AMAS already had, in collaboration with the Multi-Chain Asset Managers Association, launched a project that created a fully tokenized fund, a so-called Vault, via an online platform. Through this, we kind of explored digital assets and tokenization, which, so simply put, refers to securities that can be traded on-chain. And one key objective there was educating our working group members, helping them understand the vision of on-chain asset management. And there we explored questions like, how can smart contracts be used to simplify fund processing, and what investment opportunities exist within the crypto space. So this included then, as Sandro already mentioned, lending and borrowing assets, so-called staking, insuring risks, and so on. So the key takeaways then were basically that the technology itself is ready for on-chain asset management and offers several advantages, including full transparency. And so today I can, for example, buy Bitcoin via Bitcoin ETF without leaving the traditional financial system, interestingly, or dealing with wallets, fiat to crypto hurdles, etc. So I can stay in the traditional space. And to further add, the scope of investment opportunities remains limited, and as traditional financial institutions have built a well-established and centralized trading infrastructure over the years. So now this statement may sound a bit provocative, but the traditional system works. So even today, retail investors can buy fractional shares of securities at relatively low costs without requiring blockchain technology. So you can buy, for example, 0.1 shares of Lint just as you want. So, and but what is to be added here is, of course, DLT and distributed ledger technology could certainly be helpful in enabling such fractionalization. However, as far as we observe, it's not strictly necessary, but it certainly would make it more efficient. So I believe, to sum up, and it's fair to say that investment opportunities in traditional finance are still significantly broader than in DeFi. And so coming from a traditional perspective, we often, just to move on, we think in terms of investment funds, especially as the Asset Management Association representing also the fund management companies. So an investor buys fund shares and thereby owns a portion of the fund, and the fund itself then holds securities. And now, where comes tokenization into the play? We observed that really we think this is really interesting. So, is the fund share tokenized? So, buying a tokenized fund that holds traditional securities, or are you tokenizing the underlying assets? So, buying a traditional fund share, for example, a Bitcoin ETF, and then that invests in digital assets. And the full vision we explored in this working group was buying a tokenized fund share of fund that exclusively holds tokenized assets. So that's the far vision of fully on-chain asset management. So just to finish up here, Amas itself is not directly involved in tokenization projects. However, we actively engage with our members and further stakeholders to represent the asset management industry in this evolving space, and including also regulatory aspects there.
No, that's very interesting. I mean, maybe just first of all, is there like a paper published by you regarding the findings with your working group? How is there something maybe also our listeners and viewers could read?
Thank you for the question. So yes, it's something in the pipeline, not yet published, but for sure will come sooner or later. So we're still working on, and soon as we have some results, it will be published and made available to the broader public.
Yeah, I mean, maybe if I just mention quickly, I mean, what you've said, I mean, there of course, there's certain advantages or many advantages with maybe also with if you even traditional financial instruments, if you tokenize them and provide through a blockchain-based channel. First of all, I mean, you would have 24/7 possibility to buy and to sell if the market makers are also there, and you don't have to stop Friday at 5 and start
Sure.
again Monday. I mean, and now, I mean, if you see the whole space with with payment tokens and with stable coins, etc. I mean, it would be maybe very simple interaction between different asset groups within the same within the same blockchain or within the same, pretty seamless, and probably also much cheaper to provide with, because if you think now the cost of this, it's all different entities, very segregated, very complicated, very expensive also. And but did you also look into this?
Yeah, sure. So this is especially that what makes it difficult in the end, that you see the vision in the end. It offers a lot of upsides and efficiency gains potentially. So, but the difficult question is how to get there, right? So you have a working system in place now, and how do you change it, and how can you develop it and go to this more decentralized systems, which offer a lot of benefits in the end.
Can I ask a question to that? Maybe a bit provocative. Sorry already. I've already looked at tokenization as I mentioned before, like seven years ago. Let's put it. And ever since then, we actually didn't really evolve. So it didn't really take up. And the question I always like to ask, and also to these marketplaces that offer the tokenized version of stuff, right? Are we trying to solve a problem that isn't really a problem? So if you talk to large investors, they don't care about T+0. It's potentially, even if at all, the infrastructure, or somehow when it comes to cross-border payments, if you have the settlement there, okay, let's put it that's okay. Then I see an advantage. But when it comes to fund tokenization, if we look at the venture capital or the alternatives market, private market funds, why should they be tokenized? So number one is have people invest in a new asset class, right? Retail investors, which we are not allowed yet as of now, because we have somehow a regulator that says, okay, this is not a suitable asset class for you, you are not allowed. You need to be a qualified investor in order to invest. And there you have this minimum investments. In a VC fund, you have some 2 to 3 millions at least, right? You have a lockup period of 10 to 12 years. All that stuff comes along. So now we say, okay, if we tokenize, we can make it accessible for retail investors, right? But are the people then really investing in it? Because first of all, they don't understand it. The typical retail investor in Switzerland doesn't understand private markets. Neither should he. Why should he, right? A typical allocation in Switzerland, you have some equities, you have some bonds, you have maybe some gold, maybe some real estate. That's the typical investor in Switzerland. And that's fine. For the most people, that's enough. And if we look at the demographic distribution in Switzerland, who is investing? I mean, not even the people that you would expect are really actively investing in these asset classes. They just rely on 3A, right, and their pension funds where they are already invested in such a model portfolio. So do we really solve this issue if we tokenize it? Or, I mean, where is really the immediate benefit, or even the benefit in 5 years? Because we are trying to tokenize something that people don't understand and they don't invest in.
Yeah, if I may give here also an idea, I mean, of course, you're right. I mean, there's still many promises which were not held until now. So, I mean, basically, it's true that maybe there are certain, we resolve certain problems, but in the end, it doesn't. Or if you have, let's say, tokenization of real estate, people are talking about it since years, but if they go to market, then basically there is very little interest. But I mean, a few things. First is, I mean, once that basically the advantages of, let's say, 24/7 and so on, even though now people say, now I don't need it, once it's there, everyone wants it. I think then basically all the old legacy system will be, they will lose lots of advantages, or then also cost-wise. I mean, in the end, that's what we see in digitalization, no? And it, takes certain time, but of course, if you sell, if you have a few basis points for the transaction instead of 0.5%, then it makes a difference. And I mean, that's why we see that you have like actors like Robin Hood in the US or Ito, they have a huge success, and so on. Once it's known, then I think it will be used, and then no one will go back. I mean, it's the same a bit, I think, with maybe with the online shopping or with the iPhone. I mean, before we had it, no one needed it. It was absolutely sufficient to have to send some text messages and to do some calls. Now everyone needs it, and there is obviously lots of other business models, to lock in assets in a very simple way, basically to grant some assets which you have digital, and to get the loan on it, which will be much simpler than if you do it now through the institutions. I think And that's what we will see. I mean, many of the developments, I think, the short-term advantages, they are overvalued, or you think they're here, but they're not coming. But the long-term changes, they're basically undervalued. So I think it's really taking some time, but it's probably has some effects like with an avalanche, very slow at the beginning, very slow, but once it's here, then it will go very fast. And I think that this is one thing. And the second thing is, I mean, we have now these systems which are working with our banks. And maybe this is also something which is very interesting to learn also from Markus. We have now an infrastructure which was built in the 90s, let's say it like this, or maybe in the 2000s or something. But every like 25 years, infrastructure will be changed, will be built on a new, on a new basis. And I could imagine, I mean, I'm not so deep in financial markets as you are, but once it's here, then probably if some big US banks switch on the new infrastructure, then basically all the others have to follow. It's the first. It's the same thing a bit like with the iPhone. I mean, it's impossible now to pay basically a normal phone anymore. That's how I would argue here, and that's why I think I'm staying positive for that blockchain technology and and tokenization still, or they have a future, even though that many hopes were not yet fulfilled. But maybe Markus, I'm not yet just. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So yes, I mean, I would totally agree also with Sandro what the points he raised up. So for the moment, we don't see the avalanches coming. So, but we know that the financial participants are working on those projects, and well, but for the moment they are not. Nobody wants to be the first one. So, and you always need to ask the question, which also Sandro did, which problem do you solve? And for the moment, I think that's also a big struggle of the crypto space, that some problems are solved which are not really a problem. So, and which are working. And also to add up on the tokenization. So only tokenizing an asset doesn't make it liquid in the end. So yes, a lot of problems will remain. So, and maybe also an interesting question which pops up probably is that for a retail investor, it doesn't matter if he buys a tokenized asset or not. So in the end, he probably does not care. What maybe brings difference is for the financial institution, if there is to realize some efficiency gains or not. And if there are efficiency gains, everybody will adopt it. And if there are nobody will.
I fully agree. Mm-hmm. Thank
Good.
you.
Okay, so maybe Sandro, could you tell us? I mean, you mentioned already that you've been happy with, let's say, the traction you're getting in these projects, but could you tell us how much under management, how many assets under management you have in crypto or in tokens?
No, I can't disclose the exact number there. I'm sorry for that. But what I can disclose, and that's also been public in our annual report, all these figures I can announce. We have more than 25,000 clients as of now within 1 year. So we were happy with that. Numbers are increasing. So we still see a very, very upside trend in our client base. And also we have more than 200, I think it's even more than 250 now, 1,000 trades already within these clients. I think it's even more, but I don't have to remember the exact number there. And also with staking, we are very happy. We have already a huge amount of our client base that is staking their assets with PostFinance. There we more or less hit the market. We have around 25% of our total assets are being staked from Ethereum. And we expect this number to increase in the future, especially when it comes to Pectra, right? We still wait for the update there, but we are sure that it will facilitate many features when it comes to staking, and are very much looking forward there. But I'm sorry I can't disclose the exact number.
No, absolutely. Okay. Maybe for you, Markus, could you tell us what percentage or how many members, AMAS members, have an exposure to digital assets? And maybe also how you see the development. What do you think? Where will it be in 2030?
Yeah, thank you, Martin. So unfortunately, I also need to pass providing exact figures, but for sure we would also be interested in the, for example, in PostFinance figures. So yeah, Swiss asset management in the end is known for a strong expertise in alternative investments. However, since digital assets still make up only a small fraction of the broader alternative investment space, and their overall share of assets under management across the industry remains for sure quite low. That being said, our members are deeply involved in digital assets. So, for example, some institutions are venture capital asset managers managing digital assets or investing in digital asset firms. So, or companies providing trading infrastructure, or firms offering crypto investment solutions for end clients. And looking ahead, it's hard to predict exact exposure levels. However, it's quite clear that many recognize the potential of the technology, and especially its ability to create trustless, efficient systems in operational processes, as already mentioned before. So it can bring efficiency gains, especially in the often highly complex fund back office processes. And if the adoption of the blockchain technology in those back office systems becomes widely adopted, it could be seamlessly integrated, meaning that end clients, as already mentioned also before, may not even notice that they are investing in something using blockchain-powered solutions.
Maybe to comment on that, Markus, I think that what you just said, the fund back office, that's exactly where I also see the advantages. I experienced it firsthand when we invested in these tokenized venture capital funds, and in the VC space, it's even more a nightmare handling these investors who are changing bank accounts from day to day, and all that stuff was a nightmare. And we there already received a fully automated on-chain distribution from one of the funds. So tokens that we hold in custody, which represented a fund share, or it was an SPV that has been tokenized, have been withdrawn, and we were paid out or deposited USDT. So it was fully automated. It was at very low cost, and we didn't have to change anything. So that's where I also see the advantages when it comes to tokenization. It's really in the administrative part, in the back office part, where we can gain efficiency, where we can benefit from efficiency gains.
Exactly, yeah. Fully agree.
Good, interesting. Now maybe another question for Sandro regarding PostFinance and the security concerns we have in crypto. How do you and your clients protect themselves using crypto platforms and or wallets? What did you implement there? Where do you see the risks?
So for us, and especially when it comes to crypto, security is non-negotiable. Let's put it that way, right? All these irreversible transactions, or the nature of the blockchain that comes along with it, means there's absolutely no room for errors. So this was one of the main focus that we have also when we chose Signum, who is doing the custody part for us. And there we work with best-in-class MPC custody solutions that we have in place, and also continuous risk monitoring that needs to be there. Otherwise, we can't offer anything in that space there, right? So we offer actually for our clients, we offer them that we take over this responsibility of managing the custody part. And still, of course, one can argue, okay, not your keys, not your coins. Yes, but that's not the solution for the typical retail investor, right? So you need to provide them with an easy access, with a secure way. And I mean, as a systematically relevant bank, we need to ensure highest security standards. That's also where Signum adheres to our standards, with also a FINMA licensed bank in Switzerland. So we have more or less, I would say, although we are systemically relevant, there are some more FINMA attention on us, but in general, we have the same standards that we apply to. So it's an absolute must to have the highest standards of security when it comes to custody of crypto assets.
Yeah, perfect, interesting. Maybe for Amas, what's the obstacles for your members in investing in digital assets?
So in general, of course, and I can't speak on behalf of our members here, but some key challenges I see now is first, we have a limited and also risky investment universe when it comes to digital assets. So it's still a relative small market compared to traditional asset classes, and often, unfortunately, associated with scams, fraud, and unverified projects. And secondly, even though heavily improving, some companies still might, for some companies, it still might be true that we observe a lack of market infrastructure. And unlike in traditional financial markets, the crypto space still lacks well-established trading platforms, custodians, and clearing mechanisms. But that's heavily improving, to say so. And then a third point probably is the counterparty risk. So you really need to be aware of those risks and take a lot of time to have a good due diligence process in place, just to limit the downside potential and the reputation loss, which are key to manage.
Maybe a question here for Sandro about PostFinance. Are you only providing services in digital assets or crypto, or does also PostFinance itself take a bet and maybe invest certain amount into crypto or in other alternative investments? You mentioned just before, you mentioned private equity funds, and I'm wondering how is it with digital assets?
So PostFinance, as a typical traditional Swiss financial institution, systemically relevant bank, we do not invest directly into crypto. So there's no strategy where we need to allocate money. We have a bank license, so we are a bank. We need to offer banking services, and investing in crypto as a bank does not really meet that criteria, right? If you want to double check that, give you a small hint, we have a published annual report. And as a bank, if you take a position in crypto, you need to publish it. So maybe there was something small with a different book value than the fair value, but that's public information, so you can check that. But basically, we do not invest in crypto as PostFinance directly.
Yeah. Maybe here I have a question from one of our listeners. I think it's the right timing to ask this question, and he asks or she if Swiss Finance, as a leader in Swiss banking, are you exploring the integration of security token offerings into your product suite? And if no, why not?
So we are exploring different initiatives. If you look at our roadmap, what we have on that, security token is definitely a topic that we look into, but it's not the main priority right now. But especially, I mean, all these topics related to fund tokenization and gaining efficiency gains there, it comes with handling security token at one point, right? So, and PostFinance as a payment provider in Switzerland, we have a large IT infrastructure. We can provide a security that very little other institution in Switzerland can. And so it's very obvious that we also need to look into that market. I mean, we had something with token market cap, right, where we provided price feed for security tokens. So PostFinance, especially in our venture lab with the VNTR, has already been looking into security tokens for years. And now in the business side of the bank, we are looking at it, but not with a high priority as of now.
Perfect, thank you. Now, stablecoins, DeFi, Bitcoin only, what areas of crypto space do you find most exciting and promising right now?
Me or Markus? Should I?
Both, each.
Okay, so
would you like to start, Sandro?
all right, okay. So I think that for me it's pretty easy to answer. It's the whole stablecoin world, especially when it comes to cross-border payments, and that's also where we can make benefit of the efficiency gains, right? With the settlement, T+0, all that stuff. So I'm really looking into how the technology there can really evolve. I mean, stablecoin isn't an investment part, right? It's really about the technology that needs to make sure that we gain efficiency. And there, when we look at the other topic that pops up, it's the tokenization that we just discussed, right? Although I'm a bit more skeptical when it comes to timeline, when it will really fly, when it will really be the new normal. Let's say 5 years ago, I said 5 years, we are now here and it's not here. So let's give it another 5 years, right? Let's try it out. So it's stablecoin when it comes to cross-border payments and settlement. Also, when it comes to increasing efficiency in the domestic payment systems. But there, I think it's very hard to take a part in as of now, because the merchants won't be willing to pay more than they accept for fiat currencies, right? And offering stablecoin payments at the point of sale definitely comes with more costs as of now. So will be a hard part there. But payments, tokenizations, and the whole stablecoin world is what excites me as of now the most, I would say.
And Bitcoin, not really.
Bitcoin, of course, but Bitcoin is Bitcoin, right? I look at Bitcoin completely different than I look at other things. I know this opinion is diverse or controversial, let's say. But for me,
I will want to know your opinion.
So Bitcoin for me, yes, it's the investment case per se. So if I invest in crypto, I invest in Bitcoin. Of course, I also look at other tokens, but that's definitely the main investment for me, especially when we look at the institutional adoption that just has enormously increased over the last 2 years, right? So it has really become mainstream.
Markus?
Yeah, I agree with what Sandro said, but also to share my opinion, I believe that meme coins have had a massive impact on the credibility of altcoins recently, not in a good way. So maybe on that, and then stable coins make sense as a bridge between traditional finance and crypto, but they also raise credibility concerns depending on their design and backing. So a central bank controlled stablecoin, for example, would be then accessible also for retail investors, would contradict many of the core principles of the crypto industry and also to the entire functioning of the bank-driven credit system in the end. So yeah, that's quite interesting to have also a philosophical look at it. So, and then I also find DeFi applications very interesting. So some layer one tokens will likely maintain their relevance because they provide the flexible infrastructure for further applications. And then also to come to Bitcoin, I find Bitcoin's history quite remarkable. So it has existed for over 15 years now, and it's established worldwide. So the idea of Bitcoin as digital gold is becoming increasingly mainstream, and I personally find this growing acceptance very promising also for the future of Bitcoin.
Interesting. Before maybe just to add to this question, I mean, we mentioned it now twice or already 3 times in our discussion that, maybe this promise, which was not held until now. But I mean, now what we see now happening in the US with much more, which being basically the leader in financial markets, with being responsible for biggest part of, total assets. And I mean, now opening, they were very reluctant the last few years and basically closing down all crypto companies, and this now changes 180 degrees. I mean, now just in the last few weeks, so much happened, and I mean, a stablecoin act, the Genius Act, etc. So I mean, this could change the world now. I mean, this could be maybe a bit this avalanche moment. We don't know it yet. I mean, we'll see. We will see in 3 years, in 4 years. We'll see what will happens. Maybe already in 1 year. It's difficult to say, but still, I think this could have at least a major impact. I mean, it's pretty clear that even if Switzerland has a very pro DLT legislation, doesn't matter really because I mean the investment universe, even in Switzerland, it's not defined through the offering which is provided here in Switzerland. But I mean, or what do you think about this?
Yeah, I mean, historically, it's absolutely true that for the financial industry, the world is following what the US does, and so it's interesting to see how they develop their regulation and what they will do. I mean, probably doesn't make much sense if we have a very strict regulation here and in the US you have the opposite, but that's just a personal opinion. Yeah.
I think we really need to be careful in Switzerland, but especially in the EU, that we don't lose our position, right? I mean, we see it with AI. What's happening right now with regulation of AI in the EU, it's a nightmare, right? We definitely gonna lose there on this front. So let's try not to lose on crypto as well. And I mean, in Switzerland, we have stable regulation, we have a stable currency, we have a stable economy. This definitely helps, and we have attracted many interesting companies in that space. All these foundations, they came to Switzerland because they couldn't open up in the US, right? Yeah. Why should a company open up an office in Switzerland if they want to attract the global market, or especially the US investors, right? So that was the only reason they came here back then, and we're gonna lose this advantage if we are not careful. And what currently has also been discussed with the regulators is that we might make a step backwards there. And so we need to stay bold in that market. We need to be at the forefront. Otherwise, it's very dangerous. And I'm not willing to lose again. I mean, we had it with the fund industry in Switzerland, right? Which all of the funds have moved out to Luxembourg or Liechtenstein. Let's try to bring them back and give them a regulated way to launch tokenized funds, maybe in Switzerland, right?
Maybe this is something, Markus, what are you doing there? I mean, you are basically an interest group from important financial actors. How is your discussions with FINMA and other regulators in this respect?
Yeah, so currently we are not I mean, we are talking and we have exchanging of opinions. I think with the blockchain act, which came was introduced some years ago, we had a good starting point, but it's definitely true that we may not lose traction here, and we need to develop further. And as soon as also we hear something from our members to raise the voice towards Bern, we are ready to do so, and we are happy to help the space and develop the business here.
Perfect. Yeah, now for sure, maybe it would be good also now with Crypto Valley Association or Blockchain Association here.
Absolutely.
And if we talk together, and I think because absolutely, it seems now like FINMA is very much absorbed by UBS, former Credit Suisse topics, and all the rest is basically far away out of sight, out of thought, which is a very dangerous thing because, as Sandro mentioned it, I mean, the world now, especially now, turns really very, very fast. And I mean, that's a bit the problem, probably in our digitalized world that now, I mean, these developments, they don't come peu à peu, little by little, but it's just like once it's here, then it's takes 1 year and the world is different, right?
Yeah,
It's
we
like
need to be ready for that and ready
like the
to
video
react.
call thing, right? I mean, they dreamed about video calls since the 90s, but after Corona, it was just here.
Absolutely.
Exactly. Okay, and so maybe now a few personal question or one. If you had 10,000 Swiss francs and you had to invest it into crypto, and maybe you haven't, and maybe once you have to invest it in crypto, what would you do? And if you just have to invest it, what would you do then?
So if
Do you
I'm
want to start?
starting,
Yeah.
so yeah, first, well, I have to say that I'm absolutely no expert in crypto investing, and I do not have an expertise to provide here an investment strategy. So, in fact, I would rather consult a specialist from one of our member institutions. A lot of them offering crypto. But if you would force me now to invest $10,000 right now, I would likely go 100% Bitcoin. Not because I think other projects aren't promising, quite the opposite, but especially when not coins are in the middle of interest, but the technology itself, then other projects are of interest for sure. But so, however, I would go 100% Bitcoin because I lack deeper knowledge and recognize that Bitcoin was here for 15 years, and probably that's what a lot of people are thinking.
Sandro?
I also have to bring up a more strict disclaimer. That's
No,
not
of course, it's all no investment.
advice at all. Really, it's only reflecting my personal opinion, so it has not
Entertainment.
exactly. No, I look at it in two ways, and that it really depends on the term that you want to invest, right? If you say I want to invest for the next 10 years, or I want to get out after a year or something, I would definitely change the allocation there. But a typical portfolio, either you go 100% Bitcoin, as Markus said, right? And you're the long-term investor, the hodler, and you just believe in Bitcoin, which is absolutely fine, and the opinion of many people out there. If you want to go more diverse, let's say, I would rather or probably like allocate definitely the largest bulk, like 60% or something, into Bitcoin. Also, definitely due to the uncertain times that we currently have, right? And also to the dollar diminishing in value, we'll definitely see larger inflows into Bitcoin, and thus providing investors with a potential upside. Then I mentioned it before, staking in Ethereum, a passive income source. So definitely want to invest in Ethereum. Although the price has lately been bumping and there have been rumors on and on about Ethereum and how it will be developing over the next years, I still see it as the most accepted from institutional clients layer one solution out there, and also the most secure one. Although it needs to rely on layer two solutions, right? But nevertheless, I think it is currently or potentially undervalued. And I'm also betting on the Pectra upgrade, which hopefully leads to a potential rebound in price for Ethereum. Next up, I would say Solana, a darling of many investors out there, but definitely with an upside potential. Still, payments is one of the main use cases when it comes to crypto. Solana could be an alternative layer one solution there. So there needs to be competition, and competition often drives up prices, right? Or down if you bet on the wrong one. Then, something which I would not have guessed or thought that I would be saying that today for 1 year ago is Ripple. But with the situation in the US, the long ongoing lawsuit, and now it looks quite positive that they will have a positive outcome in the lawsuit. which will further drive up price in XRP. So XRP would definitely be a part of my portfolio if I invest for a year, let's say. And mentioned it before, all these layer 1 or layer 2 solutions, Ethereum relies on layer 2 solutions. So it's close to say, okay, we also need to invest in layer 2 there. And there I'm more or less open, but let's put in Arbitrum also with a 10% allocation, something like that. Then you have a diverse portfolio, I would say the security part with Bitcoin, the infrastructure part with these layer 1 and layer 2 solutions. You have some payment in it, and you have Solana, which represents DeFi, payments, all the things, right? So I think that would be a portfolio that I could invest in.
Perfect. Thank you very much. We're coming to an end. I have one last question from a listener from us, and he asked, and probably this is basically addressed to both of you, isn't it a contradiction to use a bank with its heavy costs for crypto investing?
Yes, it is. That's the simple question. If you look at the thesis of crypto, yes, it is. It's against the deletion of these intermediaries. Now we put in another intermediary, right? Absolutely. But the thing is, crypto is a very complex and technology focused asset class, and it's only open for, although we always claim it's the most open ecosystem in the world, if we really look at it practically, it's only open for these people who are able to handle a private wallet, right? And that's not something that everybody can. I mean, if looking at my grandmother, she's 93 years old, she would not be able to handle a private wallet, but she's able to open up crypto portfolio within PostFinance, her bank, within 1 minute. So we don't push anyone into our offering. We just provide them an alternative solution. And that's what banks do, right? They provide their clients an alternative way to invest in something that they otherwise would need to invest in a very technical way. So against the idea of crypto, yes, it is, but nevertheless, it supports the ecosystem by providing an alternative way into it.
So thank you very much, both of you. Maybe another thing, how can listeners open account with PostFinance, or how can they basically, I mean, this is pretty simple, no? But how can they interact and maybe learn more from Amas and PostFinance regarding their crypto thesis and crypto offering?
So maybe I just give my short answer to that. So we represent an industry association, so we don't have direct client relationships. What you can do, visit our website and see if, and have a look at the content there, and also approach our various partner associations, and they have interesting projects, and have a look at that. And and for those interested in opening an account, I would refer them to our member institutions, also PostFinance and Sandro.
Excellent. Perfect. Thank you very much. I think it was a very interesting discussion. I think what we have seen or heard was, I mean, there is still a certain skepticism about the next wave in crypto. Where will it go? When will these huge promises come to truth, which were given? I think we discussed about this. On the other hand, I think it was interesting to see from Sandro that there is an interest even by these retail clients. They were basically the offering was used and more than expected, and there is a good response. I think what we've also seen, where both of you have agreed, that especially in the whole back office procedures, crypto or blockchain could help with the digitalization and basically to make it process more seamless, more efficient, and cheaper. And we have also agreed that the Swiss regulator has to take care that Switzerland keeps its place in crypto, and that we stay open-minded and open to business, and that it's probably important for the future of our country also as a financial center. So I want to say thank you especially to you, Sandro, and to you, Markus. It was really great to have you here. It would be also very nice to meet you in person once in the forest.
Yeah. No real forest.
That forest you have, there are not many days, like der Weltuntergang. Not many leaves there. Let's hope now that we get the green forest with many flowers and fruits. And thank you very much. And also would be great to welcome you at the Crypto Valley Conference here in Rotkreuz, which will take place in June. I think it's always a very interesting meeting for industry leaders, and it would be great to have you with us. And I wish you a wonderful evening also to our listeners. And we try to make another event soon. And I think Crypto Valley Association, also other working groups are very active. And let's work together for a better world. And all the very best. Bye-bye.
Everyone also
Bye
from
bye.
my
Thank
side.
you very much.
Thank you.